Hello, everybody. All right, so this is Kenneth, and Jeff is with me as well. For those of you that don't know me, I am the product marketing manager for Agency Jumpstart, and we are going to be starting in the next couple minutes. So giving some people some time to get into the webinar. For the moment, I see there's a lot of you here. Can you just guys tell me, where are you guys joining us from today? Just type in the chat box. I'm from Miami. I'm from Chicago. Just let us know, where are you guys coming from right now?
And while you're doing that, Kenneth, where are you coming from?
I am from Miami right now.
Nice.
Yep.
And I'm coming at you from the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia.
Oh, nice. Fantastic.
It's my little getaway where I get to make things. It's my creative spot.
Nice. That's a really good spot. All right. So just a couple more minutes.
Don't be shy, those of you in the chat. Don't be shy. Let us know where you are, where you're coming from. And also, kind of just a reminder, there's a delay of about a minute or two or something like that, or 30 seconds. So they might just be hearing us for the first time. So
gotcha.
We'll let people get their bearings.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, let's just get started.
All right, let's do it. All right, so I just want to introduce Jeff super quick before we get started. For those of you that don't know, Jeff is a former, yes, Joe, I definitely see that you just wrote something. Paul as well, yep.
Okay,
we're here,
not
Paul.
Seeing us, it looks like.
No?
I don't know.
Let me see.
Hey, everybody. Okay.
Okay, got it. Perfect. All right, so let's continue. So, complete silence for me. Oh, Jesus. Can you guys hear us right now?
Okay, Molly can hear us. So that's what you have to do. You have to act like that we can't hear them, and then people start to chime up a little bit. So it looks like Paul's having some trouble, but everybody else is working. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Oh my God, this is great.
Yes, you exist.
Awesome. This is great. So we are both excited. Jeff has a great presentation for everybody here today. He's going to be covering the top 10 mistakes that agency owners and solo consultants make. And he has seen everything in the books and in the journeys of a lot of agencies, a lot of consultants. And he's going to kind of tell you the top mistakes and how do you actually overcome it. He was a former chief information officer at 3D Marketing, and that is a 5-time Inc. 5000 agency. Big deal. They're in the Hall of Fame. Jeff knows what he's talking about, and I am so excited to hear this presentation as well. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Jeff, and he is going to take you guys to a really great presentation. You're going to get a lot of value from it. All right, Jeff, back to you.
Awesome. And that's the problem with doing the live webinars, right? Like 10 times out of 10, we have technical difficulties. And so I'm glad that you guys some of you can hear us. It looks like Sean and Paul can't hear it. I'm hearing Kenneth just fine, and others are hearing. So it might be something where you want to restart your machine or your browser, or re-enter the thing, or turn on your headphones, whatever it is. And hopefully that can work. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation because we have a lot of information jam-packed in here. And for your benefit and my benefit, Kenneth and I are going to take ourselves off the camera so you can focus on what we're going to be talking about in this presentation. So that is where I'm going to sign off. I might jump back on later on when I'm answering your questions, but that is the end of us on the camera. So we're going to get into our presentation. And so I'm really excited to share this one with you, the 10 mistakes that agency owners and solo consultants make. And the reason why I'm excited to share it with you is because I've made every single one of these mistakes in my business, both as a solo consultant as well as I was growing 3D marketing with my team to 50 employees and about $7 million in revenue. And so to get there, you have to make a lot of mistakes. To make an omelet, you have to break a lot of eggs. And I'm giving you this information just so that if you're on the same path as I was, maybe you can see how I was able to overcome and to improve upon the situations that I faced along your way. And this might be helpful for you. And I hope it's helpful for you because this is really my heart and soul and what I put into building this business. So as you go through it, just a few housekeeping items. Turn off your phone, close out Facebook, go where it's quiet, but hopefully not so quiet that you can't hear us, that you can't even hear the presentation. Sorry about that, everybody who can't see something or hear it. But while you're there, open your mind, ask questions, and take notes, because I'm really excited to share this with you. And the goal of this presentation is to teach proven methods that will consistently produce long-term business value and predictable and scalable results. One of my favorite parts of expanding my offerings from just being a solo consultant to being an agency owner is the fact that I was able to get more predictable and more scalable results. And I was just thinking about that earlier today, just about how awesome it was to get out of the feeding frenzy trap of being a freelancer and to really build a business that could sustain itself long term, whether I was involved 60 hours a day or 60 hours a week, actually, or if I was involved 20 hours a week. So really want to teach you what I've learned along the way. And just a little bit about me. Now, you've been on my email list for a long time. This webinar is only for people on my email list. That's the only way to have even gotten onto it. So I don't really need to reiterate this that much, but I am a marketing professor, an international speaker, a PPC and analytics expert, and my company, 3D Marketing, is one of the fastest growing companies in the US, or it was for 5 years in a row. And my agency worked with many household names. So you probably recognize some of these brands. And so the techniques that I'm talking to you about, the techniques that I teach in the Agency Jumpstart program, are based on what I learned working for very large companies, as well as for smaller companies who I could put their logos on here, but it probably won't be nearly as meaningful. But just so you know, I learned every technique that I'm going to teach you, that I talk about in my programs, that I talk about in these emails, on clients like these. And before we get started, submit your questions in the chat window. So here's a little thing with our webinar system. You can chat all you want, and I'll do my best to observe them. And Kenneth is going to be moderating as well. But if you want to make sure that you rise to the top, make sure you mark it as a question as opposed to chat. So in your lower right-hand corner, at least that's where it is on my screen, I have the option for chat, and then I have the option for question. If you can choose the question option, that will make it so that it gets shown as a question. Okay, and so the final thing, stick around, because once we get done with the 10 agency mistakes, I'm going to talk about the Agency Jumpstart program. So let's get into the top 10 mistakes that agency owners and solo consultants make when they're growing their business. The number one mistake is not having a lead generation strategy. Now, this happens all the time, and it happened to me as well. But it didn't happen very long, because I learned early on that if you don't have a pipeline, you don't really have a business. And so as I was getting started, my father, who was also a solo consultant, what he told me was a lot of people end up quitting or losing their gigs once they lose a single contract because they have no business pipeline and no lead generation strategy. And so what will happen is a lot of freelancers will get one anchor client. That's what I call it, when you have a really big, nice contract that replaces your day job income. They have this anchor client, and they think that it's going to last forever. And then when it dries up, or if actually, a lot of times it doesn't dry up, or it's through no fault of your own, somebody will basically leave the company, or the company will get acquired, or the person who is your main point of contact will get promoted or demoted, or something will happen where you lose that contract. And on average, this can happen every 1 to 2 years. And so you might quit your job and take a leap of faith with this contract, and it might only last for 6 months, or it might only last a couple of years. So you really want to be focused on lead generation strategy in order to fill the pipeline if that doesn't work out. Now, we always have the best intentions that everything's going to work out perfectly, but I've been around the block long enough. I've been in this for well over a decade, and I know that things don't ever happen perfectly. They never happen how you planned it. And so what I would recommend doing, depending on the stage of business you're in, if you're already in the $1 million+ in revenue, I would give you a recommendation to build out a sales team, or at least have one kind of sales rep who can fill your pipeline with leads using outbound lead generation strategies, going to LinkedIn, finding lists of email addresses, and even calling and sending out content to companies that are in a certain market that you want to target. So basically choosing a niche and then going after it from an outbound lead generation perspective. Now, if you're under $1 million, my recommended strategy is very much just putting yourself out there, doing good work and planting seeds so that when somebody either shifts jobs from one place to another, they think of you, or so that when somebody comes through the process and they're looking for, or when somebody has a lead opportunity, they think of you, so that you're top of mind and you're coming out there, or you're coming up when somebody is looking for a particular service. And you can aid that by being active on LinkedIn, by publishing microblogs on LinkedIn or Medium, or creating your company blog and actually sticking to it instead of being like most business owners who don't do anything at all, or going to speaking, or having speaking gigs, or going and doing networking events. There's all these different ways that you can get leads, and those leads should be able to sustain you for a long time, assuming you have a business model that can take one client who you get 1 month and can turn them into revenue for years to come. And the revenue model we're talking about is the retainer model for recurring revenue. So if you can have a recurring revenue model, you don't really need a ton of leads to grow your business upwards of $1 million. You really just need one good lead every few weeks or every month. And if you can close them at a reasonable rate, then your revenue can grow pretty quickly. Because if you have $100,000 this year in retainers and you just close one deal for $2,000 a month every quarter next year, and you retain your clients, a quarterly $2,000 deal is $25,000 a year, $24,000 a year. So now your $100,000 business just turned into a $200,000 business simply by having these leads come in. So it doesn't take a lot to double your business in this industry when you're just getting started. And so obviously, depending on the size of business you are and what your aspirations are, there's going to be different situations you're going to go through. But the only thing I can tell you not to do, the only mistake I can say you shouldn't do at all, is to have no strategy whatsoever for lead generation. And so get out there, put yourself out there, and spend at least 10% of your time generating leads or generating interest or doing things that increase the profile of your business. 10% of your time, several hours a week, at least 4 hours a week, maybe 5, maybe 10, getting new business development out there. The next thing, providing too many services. Now think about it this way. If you're doing outbound business development and you're calling on a company, would you want to tell them, we offer these 10 services, which one do you want? Or do you want to go after companies that need your one service and have a really, really strong need for that area? Do you think you're going to get better results if you're a wandering generality or if you're a meaningful specific in your business? Well, I will tell you that the most profit comes from offering fewer services and doing them well, and then developing a process behind the scenes in order to make sure you can deliver it in a way that continuously is profitable. So for example, if I'm managing PPC campaigns or if I'm managing Google Analytics accounts, I want to do these few functions very well, because then I can have economies of scale as I deliver it. Because the delivery of a PPC account between one account and the second account, it's probably 75% the exact same from account to account. And so if you can establish a process, and so if you can establish your way of doing this, you can take on that second account and not be doing twice as much work. You get paid twice as much money and you're doing less work. Eventually, and actually you're doing about 1.25 times the work. And then once you had the third client, you're doing about half as much work overall, or you're doing more work, but you're doing half as much as you would for an individual client. And eventually you have a business that starts to be sustainable and starts to be scalable. Contrast this with somebody who does PPC one day, they do a strategy session the next day, they work on something that's completely unrelated, like helping a nonprofit with something or doing something that's not related to any of these services. You're going to find that none of these things are repeatable, and it's really hard to keep on making consistent money because you're offering too many services. And I highly recommend that, yes, it's okay to provide many services at first, throw a bunch of stuff on the wall to see what sticks. But then from there, you want to make sure that you are niching down as much as you can so that you are providing only the services that really matter and only the services that people want, that are in demand, and those that you can scale so you can make profits. Number 3, not setting expectations with your clients. So here's a secret about clients, and it's not that much of a secret. When somebody is paying you money, they expect something in return for that money, right? Pretty obvious, right? But a lot of times a lot of times agencies or providers, they think that the client's just like a check, and they just want to treat them as, what do I need to do with this person or this company in order to get paid? And really, that's okay, but these people, they want to get something in return of it. And so if you're not setting expectations, if you're not having an onboarding process, if you're not going through and making sure that your client is happy with what you're doing and that you're delivering exactly what they want, then they're going to be upset and they're not going to want to work with you anymore. And then no matter how good your business development system is, if you're having to replace or turn over your clients every single month, you could be the best business development person in the world, and you are going to get no results. You're going to make no revenue, and you are not going to be profitable because you're always going out there and trying to start over from day one. Because here's how it goes with clients. Your first month usually gets the worst results. It's usually your most inefficient way of delivering because you're learning the client, you're learning what they want, and you're just creating things that didn't exist before, creating a new relationship and cementing that relationship. And so if you can't set expectations with them and have them happy, they'll never get into maintenance mode where you can actually make a profit off of them. You're always going to be starting over and doing this time-consuming thing of onboarding clients and doing it over and over again because you can't retain any of your clients. Number 4, no client relationship management strategy. Now, here's a funny thing. And this is a quote that I've heard myself saying. Again, these are my mistakes. One time I said that the agency business would be a lot better if it weren't for clients. And actually, I've probably heard 100 consultants say that to me. You know, they say, no, you know what? The agency business would be great if we didn't have clients. Am I right? And then you like hit the other person on the shoulder and they'd be like, yeah, of course it would be better. Well, that's really pretty lame when you think about it. Like if you don't have some kind of relationship with your client, if you don't have some kind of idea as to what they want, and you don't realize that these people are not just a check that comes in or just a direct deposit, whatever it is, they're not just ink on a signature, that these are real people who are trying to accelerate their career, who are trying to make the right choice for their organization, then you're probably not going to keep them around very long either. So even if you are just somebody who's really good at doing the work, and I call it your craft, if you're just really good at delivering campaigns, if you're just really good at analytics, or if you're really good at editing videos, whatever your service is, if you don't have a strategy for managing the actual relationship itself, you are not going to do very well in this business. And you're not going to just not do well. You're going to get burned out. You're going to find out that this is not really what you signed up for. And you're going to say, why am I always going back to the drawing board and losing clients? Because here's the deal. If you have relationship management with your clients and you set expectations properly, numbers 3 and 4, your client should stick around for a long time. Most of my clients I have for 5 to 10 years or longer than that. My longest client right now is somebody who is lasting 14 years. And the reason why is because I set expectations and I'm very clear with them about why I do what I do and how it's going to affect them. So relationship management, it doesn't seem like it's profitable. It might seem like it's a big time-consuming thing. Again, it's time-consuming up front, but once you have that relationship going, all you need to do is rebalance every month or every few months, and you can keep on working that relationship over and over again. Number 5, if you're only focused on delivery. Again, this is very similar to client relationship management. If all you do is deliver items or deliver your reports or deliver your analysis in a vacuum, then how do you know if you're meeting client expectations? And a classic example of this is when I work with PPC firms, Google AdWords management firms, or Google Ads management firms. Sorry, they just changed the name, and it will take me like 10 years to say Google Ads every time now. So maybe all you do is manage, and you say, okay, well, I just want to manage to get the highest click-through rate and the most conversions for the client. Now, those sound like good metrics, and those are things that I teach in my PPC course. But what if it turns out that your clients, they don't have any interest in click-through rates or they don't have any interest in conversions? They just want a brand focus. Well, you went and you told them what they needed and it's not what they wanted. And guess what? They're going to be upset and they're not going to want to work with you, even if you deliver the best results ever. Even if every day your results get better, even if you log in and you're getting leads for $1 a piece when the industry has them for $10, if all you're focused on delivery and you never look up from that keyboard to ask them what they actually want, then your relationship's not going to go very far. So yes, being good at what you do is a prerequisite to being in the business, whether you're an agency or a freelancer or a contractor. That's square one. Like I've already weeded you out on this list. The only reason why you're on this webinar is because you're good at what you do. But remember, that's just an entry point. You need to go out there and you need to do well with your clients, and you need to give them what they want if you want to succeed beyond just taking that freelance contractor, milking it for what it's worth, and then going back and getting a job. Number 6, don't be afraid to cut your losses with your bad clients. Now, bad clients come in all ways, shapes, and forms, but generally speaking, a bad client is somebody who doesn't understand their business, and they're expecting you to be the one who saves their business or the person who makes their business better and better, right? And so if you're not cutting and so a bad client, another example is somebody who just wants to get the most out of you. They want to take advantage of you, and they think that since they're paying you, they have full control over your life, your weekends, your nights, your free time. That's not what you want in a client. A client relationship should simply be they need a skill because they don't have it or they don't have time to do it, and you are available for hire. You're trading your time or your team's time in exchange for funds so they can get to their goals faster. So the relationship with a client, a good relationship, is simply that. You are exchanging your time and your effort and the time of your team members and your process to give them specialized knowledge and specialized focus and specialized project management that they don't have. And so that's really what a relationship should be with a client. It shouldn't be counseling. It shouldn't be, unless you're contracted to do their strategy for them, it shouldn't be telling them their strategy, shouldn't be mediation. It shouldn't be teaching them how to do what you do. They're hiring you to do that. And so you want to be careful and not get sucked into these clients who are either control freaks or they just don't understand what they need, and they're sucking up your time and they're not paying you for it accordingly. Now, this is one of those traps, though, that people fall into all the time, is because they get blinded by the dollars. Because a lot of the times, these bad clients, they start with champagne wishes. They start with these huge goals, like where you're going to be talking about, where you're popping bottles of champagne, and then it turns out that you're getting like $2 chuck in the end of it because the client has no budget and they're all promise and they're all bark and no bite. And this has happened to me many times where startups or companies that don't have a lot of money, or they say they waste my time. I can't tell you how many times I've gone in and pitched and repitched and talked to these potential clients and had them, signed NDAs with them and everything. And then they say, okay, well, we're going to get started with you. And then they never actually sign a contract because they don't get any funding. And this happens in big companies and in small companies. I've had it happen everywhere from a startup in San Francisco inviting me to their house at 1/10 of my market rate, all the way up to a Fortune 50 company inviting me to their office. I went to their office 10 times, pitched them on internet marketing, and I think they were just picking my brain and taking ideas from me until we eventually said, hey, no more free work. If you want to work with us, no more of these brainstorming sessions, no more talking, let's get to action. And so you can't be afraid to cut your losses with bad clients or bad prospects, frankly, because if they keep on stringing you along and they don't have the funds, then it's not going to work out very well. And they're going to be very demanding of your time, and they're not going to give you anything in return. And remember, in this business, whether it's your time or if you build up scale where it can be the time of your team or the technology you have in place, time is the asset that we have. Time is the most expensive thing that we have on our books at an agency. And so if your time is getting used up and you're not getting paid for it, that is a key, or that is a very key indicator that you're not going to make a profit during that time period. Number 7, you don't have a positive cash flow. So here's the thing. Cash flow with an agency or with a freelancing business is very difficult. Now, I don't know about you, but there are times where I get paid $0 in a month. I get $0 in checks for a month. And then the next month I might make a couple $1,000. And then the next month I might make $50,000. There are times where I've had that happen to me. There are times where I've made $0 in a month, and I've made in our agency has made hundreds of thousands of dollars in a month. There's been a time, and I talk about it inside the agency Jumpstart program, where my agency didn't get paid over $1 million check for 6 months. So we had to float millions of dollars in revenue for 6 months because our client didn't pay us. And it was one of the most painful things we ever had to do in our business. But because we figured out our cash flow and we understood how much money you need to have in the bank to be an agency, to be solvent, to pay people, then we were able to have a positive cash flow, even in spite of having $1 million accounts receivable. So the best thing you can do is to take the money you gain and to wait before you put it out there, right? So if you're getting paid in a check, keep that money as long as you can. Obviously, pay yourself what you think you're worth, but be careful there too. Don't overpay yourself and keep enough money in the bank so that when things go bad or when things don't happen how you want them to, whether it's a month or 2 months or 3 months, that you have the opportunity to still be in business, that you don't have to lay people off or that you don't have to take a loan out just to make payroll. Now, this doesn't seem very important if you're a freelancer. You can probably handle it on your own, but once you get past a certain point where you have obligations, whether it's just yourself or if you have a whole company or if software payments are due, whatever it is, it gets to be really hard, really fast. And so the best advice I have for you is to keep cash flow on hand whenever possible. You want to make sure you pay yourself for your work. You want to make sure that you have a profitable business, but you don't always have to necessarily pay yourself right away. You can defer that and pay yourself once you have a clear picture. And so you might want to keep as much as 6 months worth of cash flow or expenses on hand so you can make sure that your company can stay solvent in between times when people don't pay you on time. And that's generally my rule of thumb, is to have at least 6 months of expenses on hand to know that your company can make it through the good times and the bad times. And bad times don't even have to be your own fault. They're almost never your own fault. Usually it comes from things roll downhill. So if a client has a bad time, then it suddenly becomes your bad time because they have some kind of softness in the market, or they don't get paid by a vendor, or they don't get paid by their customers, or there's turnover and the purchasing department doesn't even know who you are anymore. All these things can happen. And the only way to prevent against it is to have your war chest bigger than it needs to be, even in any kind of feasible way. Have more cash flow than you possibly could think of. And that way you can survive whatever happens. And that's how we survived that crazy point where we had $1 million accounts receivable. Number 8, a big mistake is not tracking business metrics. And business metrics can be everything from revenues to profits to expenses. And it can be even deeper than that as far as project completion rate, the efficiency rate of your employees on your clients. It can be any number of metrics. Now, I would recommend that a company starts out with just the most basic business metrics as you're getting started. And it really comes down to how much is coming in and how much is going out, right? Revenue minus expenses. And obviously, revenue minus expenses equals your profits. Now, a lot of times, if you're a solopreneur, or if it's just you sort of blend the line between what's your salary and what's your profit. I would even recommend trying to understand that if you were to hire somebody else to do your work and pay them what you paid, how much money would be left over at the end of the year. Yes, if you're a business owner, you get it 2 ways, which is amazing. You actually get it you get more than 2 ways. When I'm talking about when you get it, I mean, you get paid multiple ways. You get paid what you pay yourself as a salary. You get paid dividends or distributions on the profits of your company. And then finally, if your company is worth something at the end and you sell something, you get paid then as well in the equity value of your company. And so you get paid 3 ways. And so you don't always want to focus on how to take as much money off the table in year 1, because if that impacts your ability to grow in year 2 and year 3, you are taking short-term gains and you're mortgaging the long-term future of your business. So use business metrics to understand how you're doing. And even if you are an individual solopreneur, you can still calculate your profit as opposed to paying yourself at market rates. And if you want to know how to do that, we talk about it all inside of Agency Jumpstart. Number 9, waiting too long to put business structure in place. Now, I will tell you something, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more as we go through this presentation, but my agency, we didn't have titles for any of our team members, any of our employees until we got to employee number 13. So everybody was just called, they didn't have a title. It was just like, what's my job? And you just made up your own title, or you just were whatever. And so we were all associates, I guess. 12 people sitting in an office, and we all had the same title, which is nothing. And that really got to be weird when it came to hiring, when it came to people getting promoted and trying to go across, trying to expand their knowledge or trying to get a different job even with no structure in place. It was sort of crazy. And so we had to start putting structure in place. And the problem is when you wait till 12, you're starting to bolt on a structure to the people, not the other way around. And there's always going to be some kind of trade-off between structuring your business around the people you have and then structuring it around how your business should be structured. But basically, the longer you wait, the more it forces your hand. And eventually, you either have to fit the business around your people, which I don't really recommend, because you're basically saying my structure is going to be based on these uniquely talented people. And it's really hard to scale that in the future because it's hard to replace those people. It's really hard to replace exceptional individuals, especially when you bake them into your operating structure of your business. And so what you want to do is you want to put a structure in place, even if it's just you, and start to understand what it would look like as you expand. Do you want to be a company that is more of a consultancy where you're just having consultants and they deal with clients, they deal with the deliverable, and they're sort of responsible for their unit? Do you want to have a more corporate structure where you have a president, a CEO, a C-suite, VPs, managers, or VPs, directors, managers, associates, and so on? Is that what you want to have? Or do you want to be a traditional agency where you have one arm that's done with account management and the management of clients, and then a production arm and operations, which is purely on the delivery of the work? And those two people are never working together. They're sort of fighting with each other to get either the best work done or to do the best thing for their client. If you wait too long, you're not really going to have a choice as to what structure you do. You're going to bolt it on to the people you have in place, or you're going to choose the right structure that you should have, and you're going to have to lay off half your team because you got out of balance. Now, if you're curious about business structure, we have a whole section about business structuring, templates, and all that stuff inside of Agency Jumpstart as well. And finally, not having a legal agreement with your business partners. Now, I said I'm not going to go too deep into this one, but you need to have a legal agreement with your business partners. That's like hands down. Before you get started, before you get very far, if you are talking about having equity and becoming actual business partners or principals or equity shareholders or whatever you want to call it, it's different in every country. Whatever you want to call that entity you are establishing, you want to make sure that you have an agreement as to how you're going to proceed forward, who owns what, and how people can get in and how people can get out of that agreement. Now, here's the thing that people always forget about is that whenever you start a partnership, you should always have the exit in mind, because most partnerships do end at some point in time, whether you get acquired, whether you have a falling out with your partners, or whether or not something else happens in between, or if you just fizzle out and you have all these obligations. You want to make sure that you have both the legal agreement for how you start, but also how you separate your business as well. So my question back to you is, are you making these mistakes? And I'm guessing you're making them. I'm guessing you're making several of them. And maybe some of these things are mistakes that you will make in the future, but you don't know about yet. And it's okay. I made every single one of these mistakes. And I still built my agency to 50 employees. And we still brought in millions of dollars in revenue. I'm almost embarrassed by how long we waited to fix the problems we had inside of our agency, because we were just working hard. We basically just believed and we had faith that whatever we did, if we worked harder, things would get better and things would improve upon themselves. But honestly, hard work alone without strategy, it doesn't really get you very far. It gets you further than doing nothing at all. It gets you further than sitting at your desk job and hoping one day that you're going to start a business and dreaming about a business. Doing work gets you way further than that. But also taking action to work on your business instead of in your business can be really beneficial as well. And so we were able to thrive in spite of that. But at the time that we were 50 and we realized all these problems we had, it cost us a lot of money to go ahead and fix them. It took us a lot of time to go ahead and fix them. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing it my way, of course, right? I wouldn't recommend waiting until you're 50 employees and then saying, hey, what did we do wrong? Let's go fix it. And part of the reason why I'm here right now, actually the main reason why I created Agency Course, is because as we were struggling through our journey, building our agency up to where I wanted it to be, be this big organization, to the point where we own our own building in downtown St. Paul, Minnesota, where we're getting awards for being the best place to work, where we're growing our revenues like crazy, Inc. magazine, all that stuff. I wish we would just sit there in a room and we'd say, I wonder if other people are having this problem. I wonder if other agencies are struggling to find the fit with their employees, if they're struggling to grow in a graceful manner. And it turns out that a lot of people do, but nobody wants to talk about it because there's the bravado, there's the machismo that comes around with, hey, I'm the business person. I'm the one running this business. I'm not going to admit that I am scared, or I'm not going to admit that there's problems that I'm facing, because they'll just work themselves out. Or if I just work harder, it'll solve the problem. And frankly, I get more satisfaction with helping people out who admit that they don't know everything about running a business, and people who are like, hey, I really want to grow a big business, and I just wish that I had some kind of insight into what's ahead of me and to what's coming on in the future. And I just wish that I had the advice of somebody who's been through it. That's the reason why I created the Agency Jumpstart program, because it's very satisfying for me. It's actually more satisfying for me to help business owners grow their business than it's ever been to help clients grow their business. Because I'd rather help you take your business from $50,000 to $150,000 or from $150,000 to $1 million than I would to take my $1 billion client to $1.1 billion in revenue. I did that. I've done that a lot. I've made people billions of dollars in revenue from my marketing programs that I've run and from my, from my clients. And it wasn't very satisfying. This is much more satisfying for me. And that's why this thing exists. So things got so crazy with my agency that we had to bring in this guy. His name is Mike Payton, and he's the author of a book called Get a Grip. Now, you might have heard of his co-author down here. His name is Gino Wickman. Gino Wickman wrote the book Traction, which it has a lot of traction in business circles. You might have heard of Traction, or it might have been recommended to you. This guy is Gino's business partner called Mike Payton, and we worked with him because he's in the Twin Cities. And we ended up paying him $6,000 a day times 8 days a year to help us figure out our business. So about $50,000 a year, we paid this guy's firm to get a grip on our business because we waited too long. We waited until 50 employees. We waited until $6.6 million in revenue before we got there. And so that's the benchmark I have for what it costs and what it takes to fix your business if you wait too long. But it was worth every penny with Mike. And actually, $50,000 over the course of a year is a very small drop in the bucket for an agency of our size. It's about 1% of our revenue to go and fix our business. And so when you look at that from that perspective, I'd say 1% of your business or 1% of your revenue, whatever point you're at, is probably a worthwhile amount, give or take 1 or 2 percentage points of money to spend in fixing your business, whatever stage you're at, whether you're doing it now or if you're doing it in the future. It is something that you might want to consider looking into. So hopefully you don't need to go the route of hiring a consultant for $6,000 a day, because hope isn't a strategy, right? You don't want to just go and hope that this doesn't happen to you. You want to grow, but you want to do it in the right way. So my question before I show you Agency Jumpstart is, what would it take if you wanted to do the following things? What would it take to discover your service niche using a profit-first approach? What do you need? Do you just need some kind of materials that show you how to choose a niche? Do you need some kind of checklist? What do you need to discover a niche so you're not going after all clients and you're really going after the ones that can make you profitable? What would it take if you wanted to pick the best revenue model for your services so you have stable income and cash flow? Probably wouldn't take much, since I showed you in the emails last week what the best revenue model is. Of course, it's easy for me to show that to you, but it's not nearly as easy to implement it. And so implementation is key here. And you can have all the materials you want, but a lot of it comes down to, how do I implement this? When should I implement it? And what is the right pace of implementing? What would it take to get leads without cold calling and to sell your services without hard selling? Well, I think it would be putting yourself out there and working through a strategic lead generation process for the phase of business that you're in. And we already talked about that in the mistakes. Mistake number 1, not having a lead generation strategy. What would it take to hire subcontractors or employees to help you expand your business when you have too much work? Now, this is probably the number 1 question I get from people who join the Agency Jumpstart program, people like you. And what they tell me is that they don't know if they should hire somebody first, if they should hire business development first, how much revenue they need in the bank before they can bring on an employee, whether they should have a high-level employee, meaning somebody who's really experienced, or they should bring in a low-level employee, somebody they can grow with and they can afford to pay, or should they just use contractors until the work gets to be too much? We talk about this and give you a framework for that decision inside of Agency Jumpstart. But basically, you really have to get through your own business type, and you have to really understand where your business is and use the rules of thumb that I put out there to decide. And a lot of it comes down to cash flow in your business and your pipeline. And so the answer is, what is your cash flow and what is your pipeline? What would it take to gracefully exit your agency business one day in the future? How do you do that? What would it take to implement proven management processes into your service business so you can scale without spinning your wheels? I think sometimes you just need to know what those management processes are. You just need to really understand what processes are available to you and when you should implement them. You need a library of potential processes that you can implement, and then you need to decide which one works for you. So for example, when we were working with our $6,000 a day consultant, they gave us a bunch of different ideas for how we could improve upon our process, how we could make things better. We didn't take them all. We didn't take actually more than 20% of them. They gave us a bunch of ideas. We said, okay, well, these ones fit with our business, with our identity, with our DNA, with our culture of our company. These other ones don't. And the consultant said, sure. All right, take those ones and implement them, and we'll get back. And we're going to get you to the point where you're back to where you want to be as a business. We're going to get you to the point where you are hitting the profitability numbers you want. We're going to get to the point where you're hiring the right people and you're taking on the right services. And so, yes, there are many opportunities out there to implement proven processes, and you're not going to use all of them. You're not going to need all of them, but it's good to know that those things are available and that there's people out there who can provide you with frameworks that have worked for others in the past. So if you want to discover what it will take to grow your business, whichever of these problems you're facing, whichever of these mistakes you're making, and you want to know how to do it the right way, or at least the way that I've determined to be the right way for the type of business that I ran, and also the right way that I've learned and talking to over 200 agency owners who are part of the Agency Jumpstart program, then joining the Agency Jumpstart program is the best way that I know of to get there, both from a price point perspective and from a content perspective as well. So if your goal is to become a highly paid, respected, and influential consultant or an agency business, then the Agency Jumpstart program is specifically for you. And here's how it works inside. So we have 5 modules, 5 core modules of Agency Jumpstart course. They are the agency fundamentals, business development, growing your business through people and process, long-term planning, and temptations to avoid. And I just want to show you a little bit more about how each of this stuff works and what's inside of each module. So in module 1, we talk about accounting statements. Now, this is something that's sort of funny to me, but we actually go right away into financial statements, because if you can't understand financial statements, or if you don't know what profitable looks like or what your end game is, then a lot of this other stuff doesn't really matter, because that is really the end metric that we're judged on at the end. We've talked about the CEO mindset throughout these emails we've sent out to you. And really, this is the mindset that people are judged on, is whether or not they are profitable at the end of it. And so we spend a lot of time talking about it inside of Agency Jumpstart. I asked students during our beta program, which we ran, and I said, do you want us to do accounting statements at the beginning or the end? And every one of them said, do it at the beginning, even though it's boring, even though I don't like looking at numbers that much. I know it's important, and I want you to hit me over the head with it right away, because it does set my mindset for how I proceed forward with my business. We also talk about revenue models and how to pick the right service niche, both service and client niches. In module 2, the 10% rule of business development, which we talked about earlier in this webinar, why client budget cycles are more influential than any sales efforts you execute. Basically, you're going to get the majority of your money during these 2 key time periods of the year. And the bad client checklist, which also gives you the Sauer principle that 80% of the pain in your butt comes from 20% of your clients. How do you fire a bad client? Module 3, about growing your business, the 9 critical questions you should ask your clients during the onboarding process, and how to build an employee-centric marketing culture so your employees become your marketing machine, simply by talking about what they know and what they're doing every day in your business. Module 4, the 7 best agency management KPIs and a framework for understanding where you have your biggest weaknesses. I'm guessing a lot of you would want to know that. What are your biggest weaknesses right now? Well, we help you evaluate that and choose not just like what's a weakness, but how do you know which ones you need to improve and how is it impacting the rest of your business? We talked about business structure earlier. We have agency org chart templates that are available to you, and we even talk about potential buyers for your agency and stories about 9-figure agency exits. What properties do they have? Who bought them? And how can you position yourself to be an agency that gets acquired in the future? And finally, in module 5, temptations to avoid. Why you need to make a choice and niche down in your business and choose whether you're going to be a platform or a service. 4 reasons why you should not add new services to your business. And 8 business planning building blocks that every agency must have in place before growing, and also a checklist to make sure you've addressed them all. So as you notice here, the agency course, it focuses on the problems you're going to face at certain points or the problems you're already facing. But it's not just that. We also give you frameworks on top of it to help you deal with those decisions. Because a lot of times you know the problem. I can help you more clearly define the problems you have, but I've been through them. I've fixed them. I've fixed every single problem that I faced along the way, or hired somebody to help me fix it. And I show you in Agency Jumpstart how we fixed it, and then also the exact methodologies we developed as a result of fixing these problems. So again, you might have experienced every single one of these things by now. You might have experienced 10% of them. At some point, if you want to take this thing to the next level, if you want to take this thing to a certain level, to a certain degree of income, if you want to scale this thing, you are going to hit almost all these temptations at some point along the way. So you're probably wondering right now, how much will agency course cost? Is it $6,000 like I paid Mike Payton per day? Should actually put 48,000 there. Here's the deal. We introduced the Agency Jumpstart program last year for the first time, and we sold it for $1,997. And we had people join the program, and they're very happy, and they've grown their business. They're very grateful for us because of the $1,997 program. But what I found is that at that price point, we were sort of pricing out some people who are just getting started in their business, people who really, they know they need these things, but they're just not quite there in revenue. And so what we started to do is we've reduced the price. It's no longer $1,997. It's no longer the minimum entry point. And we've given more affordable packages based on where you're at in your business. So here's the packages we have available. And I have the right to blur it out because I just want to talk about the most affordable package for the Agency Jumpstart program. And really what this package does is it shows you everything about Agency Jumpstart. So you get all the frameworks I just talked about, you get all the modules of the Jumpstart program, you get our private Facebook group, and you get all this for the price of $997. And this is the best price we offer for our Agency Jumpstart program. And if money is really a concern for you and you're not sure if you can afford it, then we do it also in a 4 monthly payment plan at $299 a month. So you can either save in full by paying $997 in one payment, or you can do 4 monthly payments. The next package is for people who want to grow their business and they want to grow their revenue. And so we have this thing. So what we do here is we have our 5 core modules. We have the workbooks and frameworks, but we also add the Sales Jumpstart module, which is our system that is fully dedicated to teaching you how to grow a sales organization. And when I say a sales organization, this is usually for people who have aspirations to grow their business beyond $1 million in revenue, to the point where they can either have a dedicated business development person, or they can take on a role in business development to establish a pipeline where you're going on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 sales calls a week trying to grow your business. Because if you want to grow into millions of dollars in revenue, you are going to want to do a sales call pretty much every single day in order to get to that point. And the only way to go to the point where you're doing sales calls all the time, or you have a salesperson working the leads that you have out there, is to dedicate time to it and to develop a sales system. And so we added on to Agency Course from our original version, and we've added a sales module just for those who want to expand their business beyond the $1 million mark. And so if you're interested in growing really strongly and you want to understand how you can build a pipeline, and the exact process we used, the exact pipeline technique we used to grow from $1 million agency all the way up to $6.8 million in revenue, Sales Jumpstart works for you. And the reason why you might want to get it now is because this is the best price we're going to be offering on this particular package as well. And just so you know about Sales Jumpstart, it's a 12-lesson bonus module, 12-lesson module, and it focuses on how do you get leads, how do you work them, how do you have a scoring system for your leads, what technologies can you use to make sure that everything is working properly. And not only that, but we also give you our pitch deck templates, the exact pitch structure I recommend if you want to sell somebody on your services. So if you're not confident in how to sell what you're providing to people, and you're not sure how much you should charge or whether you should put pricing in your pitch deck, we talk about it all inside of Sales Jumpstart. And we have these supplemental downloads so you can just plug in your own data and get to work on trying to sell your products and services. And finally, we have the one with coaching. So the Building an Elite Agency program not only has everything that's in Sales Jumpstart and Agency Jumpstart, but we also have 4 quarterly calls with me, plus recordings, where I help you grow through your business. So I'm going to give you an example of the people who are going through the program right now with the Elite Agency package. We have several agency owners who are going through, and we are doing quarterly calls with them. And I'm going to give you 2 examples. The first one, his name is Darren. And Darren has gone through the process. And during the first call, he was just about to hire somebody. And he wasn't sure about hiring. He wasn't sure about how to onboard them, like the right way to go through hiring somebody into his agency. And so we used the call to walk him through that. And then we just had a call last week where we caught up with his business. And it was me, him, and his business partner. And he's talking about, oh, that employee worked really well. Thanks for the onboarding advice. Here's our next challenge we're going to go through. And the next challenge he was going through was whether they hire a new person, whether they put more work onto the onto the employee they just hired, and what is the right process of handling business development versus handling the rest of their business. And so we help them work through all that. And that's what happens when we have these coaching calls. And the second example is Florian, who's growing his business. We helped him grow his business as well. And we're helping him work through how to target the right niche and how to grow his business development. And here's Florian and me in one of those calls. So if you want to get started with the Agency Jumpstart program, I encourage you to start going to agencycourse.com/success, and you can start to get one of these packages. And while you're thinking about it, while you're wondering if this program is right for you, there's a 60-day money-back guarantee that comes with the Agency Jumpstart program. So if you complete the entire Agency Jumpstart course and you don't find it valuable, and you're not able to implement these strategies, and you don't find that it's working for your business, you can email our support team and you can get a full refund. All you need to do is watch the videos and fill out the worksheets. And if that's not working for you, if you've done all that work and you're still not getting clarity into your business, we will happily refund your payment. That's a guarantee to you. So go to agencycourse.com/success if you want to learn more. And while you're debating, again, wait. There's more. There's more to this. We have a bonus. The first 50 people who purchase any of these options, they're going to get a one-on-one onboarding call with me. Now, I just did an onboarding call yesterday with somebody who joined the Agency Course program who couldn't wait for this webinar, who jumped into it because she was really interested. And it was great. It was really worthwhile because I was able to show her where we can answer her questions and solve her problems within the Agency Jumpstart environment. So she had a lot of questions about how to work with Agency Jumpstart. She had a lot of questions about where she should go. And actually her question was about how do we handle business development versus building out process. And we came to a resolution based on her particular business as to the right order to do things and how much time she should dedicate to them. We talked about whether she should fire a bad client. And we did all this in our 30-minute onboarding call. So if you want to get my opinion on the next biggest struggle in your business and you want it right away, then sign up today. Sign up now, and you will get the opportunity to book time with me, and we'll go forward. So here's what a typical one-on-one call looks like. I'm on camera answering your questions, and we just get to it. We just get right to the questions, and we give answers, and I try to provide as much value as possible and as little time as possible because I know you're busy, and I know that you really just want to get back to working on your business. And to get this bonus, here's what you do. You sign up today on this webinar. You choose your package. And once you get your login, email my support team and we will schedule the one-on-one call with you. But there's more to it than that. Bonus number 2, you get one year of access to our agency process library, which we're building out later this year. Hopefully it's going to be launched on December 1st. And if you join the agency process library, we are going to charge for that just to get the processes, just to get somebody to give you, just to get plug and play templates for using different processes. We're going to give you 1 year of access to this library. And it's going to be $1,000 when we sell it live on the website. And so if you want to get in and you want to understand the different processes you need in place for your agency, we are developing up a premium agency process library that takes all the concepts from Agency Jumpstart, all the things you need to do for your business. You just copy it and paste it into your system and you're ready to go. So we're going to give you a process library where you can implement processes without all the trial and error that I went through as I was growing out my business. But there's more. There's more. Bonus number 3, 5 plug-and-play sales pitch deck templates and a masterclass on how to fill it out. Now, I mentioned this in the Sales Jumpstart, and this bonus is only available for those of you who are taking the Sales Jumpstart program, just so you know. And we give you 5 plug-and-play sales pitch deck templates and a masterclass on how to fill it out. So if you're wondering, hey, I want to pitch something, but I don't really know where to put it, or I have a good idea as to what my pitch should be, but I want to run it by Jeff, you can get these templates, and then we can spend our 30-minute onboarding call talking about your pitch and going through your pitch. However you want to use that time, it's yours. We'll make it the most valuable use of your time possible. So here's the masterclass, and then the masterclass itself just shows you how to fill it out and the reasoning behind why you should do that. Because again, I've participated in over 1,000 sales pitches, and I've learned things every step of the way. I've learned good things, I've learned bad things, and I sort of summarize in this masterclass exactly why I do it the way that I do it. And you can learn how to do it as well. Bonus number 4, a 1 year of expert workshops, which we're going to be selling for $997 as well. And so last month I did a workshop with experts on lead generation, both for LinkedIn and through outbound lead generation. And we discussed it on our private channel for only agency course subscribers. Here's me, Isaac Anderson, and Guillaume Moubiche, who's out of Paris. And we talked about it, we debated it, and we both came to the solution. We came to a resolution that you can do them all, but we also share which one you should probably do first. And that's really what this one's all about. And I'm excited that you can join our library where I bring in experts and I ask them all the pressing questions we have about how do we use these techniques to grow our businesses. Because that's really what this is all about, is growth and recognition. Not only that, but also comfort in knowing that we chose the right path as we go forward. So that's the packages we have available for you inside of Agency Jumpstart. As you can see, we've expanded the table to show you the different bonuses that are available. And you can get it all at agencycourse.com/success. And just to summarize what you're going to get when you join the Agency Jumpstart course today, you get the full course, which is 20 plus hours of content, plus all the downloads and frameworks in our private Facebook group. You get one-on-one calls with me. You get a one-on-one call with me just for joining on this webinar. You get 1 year of access to our agency process library, which is coming in December. You get 5 sales pitch deck templates and the masterclass, and 1 year of expert workshops starting in October of this year. Oh, I almost forgot. Sign up today and you get a first crack at our Agency Mastermind Matchmaker service, which is coming in 2019. We are going to join agency owners who have complementary skills, maybe not competitors, but are people in similar time zones and different geographic areas. And we're going to match you together so you can talk about your business together, talk about how you can grow your business, and set you up with somebody who's just like you so you can meet once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month to talk about growing your business and to help each other tackle the biggest challenges you have. So we're going to connect you with your peers as part of this, and that's coming up in 2019. And you're going to be one of the first ones to have access to it if you sign up for Agency Jumpstart today. So to summarize what we're looking at here, you can pick from 3 packages. You will save money by paying in full, and there's a 60-day money-back guarantee. And that's all I have for you in this presentation. I know we're getting out just in time. And what I'd like to hear from you now is, what are your questions? And I'd like to spend the rest of the time answering your questions. And also, if you decide along the way, if I answer your question and you're interested in the program, it's all there at agencycourse.com/success. So I'm going to go to the questions here. I see Joel has a question. Yeah, do you sign up clients for 12 months? So Joel, we don't, let me see if I can put myself on screen as well. All right. So Joel, we do not, it really depends on your relationship with your client, how much they trust you, and how much you want to work with them as well. And so generally speaking, if I work with somebody, I don't like to lock into a 12-month contract because we don't know how it's going to go. So that can be both for you and for the client. So I'll often, like right now it's July. If somebody wants to work with me, I might say, okay, well, we'll do something for the next 3 months, or we'll do something through the end of the year and see how it works. And then we'll put into the contract the ability to renew for another 12 months from there. Also, it's important to put out clauses in the contract, both on the provider and the vendor, or the vendor and the client side, in case things change or if you want to get out of it. We don't like to lock people into long contracts, but we do like to try to get that revenue locked down as far as projecting as we go forward. And so, yes, we always start out with a more manageable, smaller contract until we know that we'll work together well. And then from there, we do expand it to the point where we are generating and producing 12-month contracts. And that allows us to project everything from headcount to cash flow to the overall health of the business. And so 12 months to start is a lot. And I think dipping your toes in the water works better. If you do well and you're on your best behavior and you go through it, then the chances are they're going to renew it well into the future. So focus on the long term, not just on the short term, and things will usually work out better for you, at least from my experience. Can we see some examples of good client relationship management? Yeah, so I'd say, Joel, so what is good client relationship management is taking all the different questions the client has. So first of all, the number one good thing is to communicate with them. Don't operate in a vacuum, and don't make the only communication that you give them be a monthly report that comes out of without even looking it over, right? So you need to have some kind of relationship. That's prerequisite number one. And so a good relationship is where you can tell them what's going on. You can make recommendations, and you remember, you're the advisor, you're the expert in the area that you're covering. And so if a client says, hey, I want to do this, a good client management or good client relationship would be to say, hey, client, I know you want to do this, but here's what I am seeing in the marketplace, and here's where I think you could improve upon what we're doing here. And so a lot of it comes down to taking their input, their suggestions, and then applying your expertise to it to give them the right solution. And so that's really like a good example of client relationship management. I'm trying to think of, examples are difficult, but so I've had clients who come up to me and they say, hey, Jeff, I want to rank number one on Google for this keyword. And so what I'll say to them is, hey, that's great. I love the idea of ranking number one on Google. One, do you want to do paid or do you want to do organic? Because sometimes they don't even know the difference between the two. And then once I establish that it's paid, I'll say, okay, well, here's a projection as to what it's going to cost to be number one all day, every day for that keyword on Google. It's going to cost you $1 million a month. And I say, here's an alternative that I'd recommend. I'd recommend only showing up there either in certain geographies or at certain times, or, just to appease certain things, and then focus on spreading out your budget more effectively across many things. And so I think good relationship management there is taking an idea that the client has and making it better. That's one major piece of client management that I would recommend. And the other way to do it is to go through and to really advise the client and even educate them as to what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because I think that this is something that we always underestimate when we look at clients, is that we're there to improve upon what's going on and to apply our very high level of expertise against what they're working on. And so just being an advisor and being trusted to them, and not always focused on how much money you're going to make, but what's right for them, because the money comes. It definitely comes. And if you're spending all your time and effort onboarding a new client, and you put a lot of effort in there, the money's going to come for years and years and years. And once it becomes a cash cow where you have to do very little work and very little management, and it just keeps on coming in, that's when you're in an ideal situation. And that's where the profits come in your business. Bao says, what kind of realistic expectations should you set for a client for the first 3 months of a project? Yeah, Bao, it really depends on what you're offering. So, for example, for PPC, if I'm taking a PPC client on and they've already done PPC before, then a lot of the times the expectation is month one, we're going to break even or be within 20% of your previous results. Month two, we're going to improve that by 10%. Month three, we're going to improve by 10%. On a reasonable thing, a reasonable amount, and an amount that they can get behind, that they would want to sign up for, or that they would want to pay you to do. And then if you deliver more than that, or if you under promise and over deliver, great. You just really blew their minds away. But also, if you just continue to deliver, if there's problems with getting asset delivery, or if they're not giving you what you want, you built in a little cushion there. SEO, I think a lot of times people set the expectation that you're not going to get any results in the first 3 months. And that's why SEOs get a bad name. I think the right thing to do there is to say, we're going to, you might make the first 3 months based on activity. Like, activity is what's going to lead to better results. So here's the activities we're going to do in the first 3 months. Analytics, usually if you're doing an analytics audit or if you're working on something, I think the first 3 months would be to get the ship in order, to get it to the point where it's reliable and working well. The next, looking at people like clients or through this program, video editors, it's like getting a process to edit things more efficiently. We've had brand strategists. Maybe by the end of 3 months, it's just to have the brand strategy in place. If you're doing other advertising other than Google, if it's Facebook advertising, I think it would be very similar to Google advertising. If they've never advertised before, you sort of have to take a leap of faith based on what Google's keyword planner is sharing with you, or Facebook's insights are showing, whatever Facebook's tool is, and then also compare it to your own experience. But a lot of times you want to under promise and over deliver. Actually, every single time you want to under promise and over deliver. So you don't want to over promise these things. You don't want to say too much. You just want to get done what you can get done. Any other questions? No problem. Nice to talk to you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this webinar. I know I've taken over an hour of your time, and so I'm going to stick around and answer questions if you have them. I love answering questions that people have about their business. And hopefully if you didn't get your question answered, you can send me an email anytime. We read every email and we'll respond to it. Just reply to any of these webinar invites. And I'd love to see you all inside the agency course program. I know some of you have already signed up. It looks like a bunch of you already signed up now. So it's great to have some new blood in the Agency Jumpstart program. And I look forward to onboarding you and working with you to help grow your business. Joel, awesome. Thanks for joining us. Nice to meet and talk to everybody out there. All right. Well, since I don't see any more emails or any more text messages or anything coming in, I'm going to assume that we've answered your questions and we've done it well. And so thanks everybody. And it was great to have you on this 10 agency mistakes webinar. And I hope to join you again. And I hope to see you inside the Agency Jumpstart program. Bye everybody.